And since we have very, very short time, I'm very sorry that I don't have time to greet everyone in person. So I wish everybody good morning. So I want to start our talk before the session begins. Meditation session begins. I want to continue our talk on dependent origination. Yesterday I started talking on avidya, ignorance, and I gave several things as the nourishing food for ignorance. I said some influxes called asava, and which are supported by 7 underlying tendencies such as aversion, lust, wrong views, doubt, conceit, desire for being, and ignorance itself is supporting ignorance. In addition, there are 5 hindrances. They are supported by 3 unwholesome deed, words, and thought. I said the unwholesome deeds are 3, unwholesome words are 4, unwholesome mental states are 3. And today I want to start with this next step of the also that support ignorance, that is called 10 fetters. 10 fetters, most of Theravada Buddhists coming from Theravada Buddhist tradition, Buddhist countries, know these fetters. Fetter number 1 is the personality view. They believe the body is with self, feeling is with self, perception is with self, thoughts are with self, consciousness with self, or self is in form, self is in feeling, self is in perception, self is in thought, self is in consciousness. Form is in self, feeling is in self, perception is in self, thoughts are in self, and consciousness is in self. So they believe that form and self are identical, feeling and self are identical, and feeling and perceptions are identical, self and thoughts are identical, self and consciousness are identical. So in various ways, it has been explained in text 20 ways of describing self. And that is a very strong belief. People believe in that so strongly that when Buddha was talking about non-self, the people were so upset. They said, Buddha, this Gautama says that we will be destroyed, we will be annihilated, we will no longer be existing, and so forth. They were so upset, they accused the Buddha for annihilating living human race. In replying to them, Buddha said, these people accuse me for destroying life. I'm not talking to anybody or advising anybody, teaching anybody to destroy life. I talk about non-existence of permanent self. I talk about destroying suffering. I talk about destroying greed, hatred, and delusion. Uh, and these are the causes of suffering. I want to eliminate suffering. I taught taught suffering and end of suffering. Now, for these people accuse me, I want to end suffering. Since suffering is there, I want to end it. So he sees the uh, rising of suffering and passing away of suffering. This is dependent origination, right? The suffering is arises depending on various things, and when those things are eliminated, suffering will cease. For these people accuse me. Uh, so he said, it is better for them to get rid of their ignorance rather than accusing me for asking our disciples and the world to get rid of the cause of suffering and free from suffering. Instead of doing that, they are so ignorant. You can see the ignorance goes far. Uh, Even when somebody talks about the elimination of ignorance, they get upset because their ignorance is so deep. They don't understand the benefit of letting go of ignorance, letting go of the cause of suffering. So long as ignorance is there, suffering is there. So long as greed is there, suffering is there. So long as hatred is there, suffering is there. So long as ignorance is there, suffering is there. And if you want to get rid of your suffering, these are the things you got to get rid of. Greed, hatred, and delusion. Uh, so instead of accusing the Buddha. And therefore, this is number one of the fetters. And because of this ignorance is blocking our view, greed or desire binding us together. Greed also is called sineha in Pali, meaning moisture. When you plant a seed, without moisture it will not grow. You got to put water. When you have some dry cement and sand, that it won't bind together until you pour water. So the characteristic of water is binding, and greed characteristic also is binding, clinging. And see, we have two very powerful factors. One is ignorance, which blocks our views, our understanding, and blocks the awareness of reality. On the other hand, desire or greed as a fetter binds together. So long as these two exist, liberating from suffering is unthinkable. It never happens. And therefore Buddha just hit the nail right on the spot, so to say. He pinpointed the problem and how to get rid of the problem. And therefore, people full of ignorance, instead of trying to see the truth in it and purify the mind, liberate themselves from greed and ignorance, they accuse the Buddha because there is another factor involved in it. When there is a greed and ignorance, hatred also is there. And therefore these three factors work together in make our life unhappy and painful and get involved in deep suffering. And that has been going on all along until any individual understands this relationship between these three and suffering, that person until somebody understands that this person is not free from suffering. One who understands these things correctly, properly, through the practice of insight meditation, then that person will be free from suffering. Friends, with this, we want to start our morning session of meditation. And after this session, I will talk more on this topic. Let us begin with our metta. Yes.
You see that?
Yeah, I know. It takes some time like that.
Okay, so that's normal.
Normally it gives us a little dance to see our patience.
I've never seen it take so long.
What?
I've never seen it take so long. Oops.
Anyway.
Should we go without? Wait, let me try this.
Go to Apple and see recent documents.
Ah, good idea.
Okay, there is some
technical difficulty.
So while our technician is trying to resolve that, let us begin. May all beings be happy and secure. May all beings have happy minds. Whatever living beings there may be, without exception, weak or strong, long, large, medium, short, subtle or gross, visible or invisible, living near or far, born or come to earth, may all beings have happy minds. Let no one deceive another, nor despise anyone anywhere, neither from anger nor ill will should anyone come to another. As the mother would risk her own life to protect her only child, even so towards all living beings, one should cultivate a boundless heart. One should cultivate for all the world a heart of boundless loving friendliness, above, below, and all around, unobstructed, without hate or resentment, whether standing, walking, sitting, lying down, or whenever awake. One should develop this mindfulness. This is called divinely dwelling here, not falling into erroneous views, but virtuous and endowed with vision, removing desires for sensual pleasures. One comes never again to birth in the womb. With this, we start our meditation. Even though you could not see the Metta Sutta on the screen, you all join me as usual to share Metta with all living beings. With this earnest wish for all beings to be free from suffering, let us begin our second part, is taking few breaths to notice the sensation of breathing. As you breathe in and out, you notice the breath without verbalizing, conceptualizing. Friends, when we start verbalizing anything, we will miss the reality, because reality is not a word. The word will block our view, understanding reality. Therefore, without verbalizing, pay total attention to the breath and notice inhaling, exhaling as exhaling, with a brief pause between inhaling and exhaling. As you do so, you become aware. Along with inhaling, feeling arises, perception arises, attention arises, consciousness arises. And when we exhale, along with exhaling, feeling arises, perception arises, volitional formations or attention arises, consciousness arises. And they all pass away when we breathe out. Feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness that was before is gone, and new feeling, perception, thought, and consciousness arise when we breathe out. So quickly they change, and we just cannot verbalize, no way that we can express it to anybody, even to ourselves, let alone others. That quickly they change. As they change, there is nothing to excite, so our hindrances will fade away gradually. Our resentment, greed, restlessness and worry, sleepiness and drowsiness, and doubt also fade away. As they fade away, the body becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. The breath becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. The mind becomes calm, relaxed, and peaceful. When these three segments of our personality peaceful and relaxed, then naturally our mind gains concentration without hindrances. When mind gains concentration, mind will be filled with the thought of letting go or generosity. We call it thought, but we feel the mind let go of whatever arises. Mind cannot hold on to anything. Whatever arises, immediately it passes away. That is called letting go. Then loving friendliness, as we started, begin to manifest itself without word. We feel loving, friendly feeling. Then compassion arises. That also stays there. And then joy out of this letting go, loving friendliness, compassion, arise joy. When joy arises, happiness arises. When happiness arises, concentration arises. That is exactly what the Buddha said. Sukhino chittang samadhyati. The one who is full of happiness gains concentration. Happy mind gains concentration, not excitement, agitation, and so on, but peaceful, calm, relaxed state develops concentration. And that is the state we want to reach every session. And then let me stop talking and we try to achieve that goal this short period of time. Dukkha pattaca nidukkha bhaya pattaca nibbhaya soka pattaca nisoka hontu sabbe pipanino. May the suffering be free from suffering. May the fear struck be free from fear. May the grieving be free from grief. So too may all beings be. Once again, friends, we want to wish all those who are in pain and suffering, affected by this virus, and their families, friends, relatives, they all suffer along with them, if not physically, at least psychologically. And there are also other thousands of people trying to help them in various ways in their own personal capacity, individually or collectively. And all those who are in medical profession sacrificing their lives to help these people. They risk their own health, and I heard even those medical professionals have been affected by this coronavirus, and they, I think, were affected by them by trying to help these people, and they and all other supporters, medical professionals, chemists, and all those others who support them physically, psychologically, financially. And there are many thousands of individuals all over the world praying in their own religious places, and others in their personal capacities. May all of them and everyone, without any exception, be free from pain, suffering, and return to normal life and live long in very good health. Now I want to continue my little talk on dependent origination. I started with fetters, fetter number 1, as listed in text, is the notion of self in various forms and shapes, and people get offended, even upset, when we talk about non-existence of self. Even some individuals who say that the Buddha's teaching is very good, marvelous, very good ethical code is there. Unfortunately, they don't believe in self and so forth. And all these come in our understanding, come from ignorance, avidya, not knowing the truth. And this is a very big fetter for liberating the mind from suffering. This is a fetter. Second fetter is doubt. Doubt about the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and moral, ethical principles. Thinking that even though one does not observe moral principles, one can attain liberation. Uh, there was a monk in the Buddha's time, his name was Aritta. Aritta said, even though Buddha said that uh, one has to be free from defilements to attain liberation, he taught that one may not necessarily have to be free from all defilements to attain stream entry and so on. And this is what is called pernicious view, arousing in his mind because of his not understanding the truth, because he had ignorance. Sunakhat, on the other hand, went around telling the world that even though the Buddha tells that one has to overcome hindrance, fetters to attain liberation, even though he uses logic and trying to persuade people, but without destroying all of them, uh, some people attain liberation, even though he says this is true, but that it is true that one should be liberated from uh, fetters to attain liberation. He said without uh, following his teaching, people can attain liberation and so on. This also is due to ignorance. Then Sati, Venerable Sati thought because of his own ignorance that the same self, same consciousness goes from life to life. And when Buddha came to know about it, he reprimanded and explained how wrong he was. That also is because of his ignorance. Even though they all lived during the Buddha's time, uh, some of them even in the same monastery with the Buddha, and still, because of their ignorance, they could not uh, understand or see the truth, and they had doubt about the Buddha's enlightenment and his teaching. Even some individual, when Buddha declared that there are certain things he did not uh, answer, certain questions, particularly 10 questions, uh, some believe that Buddha did not know the answer, or he knew the answer, but he was reluctant to teach and so forth. That also is because of their ignorance. Buddha had very good reason for not answering those questions, and yet because of these individuals' ignorance, they had doubt about the Buddha's enlightenment. And doubt is another stumbling block that eventually lead to uh, skepticism. Skeptics normally do not accept any answer for any question. When uh, you try to answer their questions, instead of trying to understand the answer, they would be thinking of another question while you are answering the previous question, because they are not interested in your answer. Uh, so they keep asking another question. When you try to answer that question, the person, instead of listening to the answer, he would think of another question. So these are like chronic skeptics. They just keep asking questions without accepting any answer. So, of course, doubt, uh, on the other hand, has a positive side as well. If it is uh, optimistic doubt, positive doubt, that Buddha always encouraged. When somebody has a doubt to understand the Dhamma, that person can ask questions. When he asks questions, then the Buddha and learned disciples would answer the question. So somebody who does not understand certain deep, subtle Dhamma points, by all means that person must ask questions to clarify his or her doubt. And therefore that kind of doubt is healthy. That is what is called wholesome or healthy doubt. But doubt for everything without expecting any answer is a stumbling block. Wholesome doubt is healthy because that would help anybody to understand the Dhamma. And also there is a factor of enlightenment called investigation of Dhamma. Dhamma Vicaya Sambodhyanga. When you investigate something, you have to ask questions. When Dhamma is not very clear, any point is not clear, you must ask questions. Just like in our discussion, when I say something during the question period, you ask me questions. And if the question is answerable, if I know the answer, I answer the question. So that way we improve our understanding. And also we have Dhamma discussion. Dhamma discussion is called blessing in Mangala Sutta. When we have a discussion, we have to ask questions. Then we can carry on very healthy, meaningful, good discussion to clarify our doubts. So doubt for the sake of doubt is not wholesome. That simply blocks our understanding. Doubt for clarifying something and ask questions to clarify the doubt, and that doubt is wholesome. And that is how we investigate. When we investigate, we have to ask questions until we get the Dhamma clarified and clear in our mind. Then doubt arises as a fetter as well as a hindrance. In fact, both are equally unwholesome. When we have doubt, we will be perplexed, confused, and cannot proceed. We always set back as a hindrance. When doubt arises as a fetter, then it certainly prevents us from attaining stream entry and understanding the Dhamma. And therefore, in many ways, doubt is that kind of unwholesome, unprofitable doubt is to be overcome. Wholesome doubt and doubting the Dhamma, Buddha encouraged it always. That is why he said you must listen to Dhamma, ohito soto dhammang sunati, and then you remember that Dhamma, sutta dhammang dharati, then dhatanam dhammanam attang upaparikati. When you memorize the Dhamma, then you keep asking questions yourself, for yourself, in order to get the clear answer. This may be with other, you can ask other people questions, or if there are no others, you can ask yourself asking questions, or you read the book asking questions. You have discussions asking questions with the intention of learning Dhamma and freeing the mind from doubt. That way you get your doubt out of your way and you can proceed with confidence. Confidence in also has to be endowed with understanding, or faith must be supported by understanding. That is called avitta aveccha pasada. Aveccha means learning, understanding Dhamma. Pasada means pleasing or faith. So faith with understanding is wholesome faith, not blind faith, andhavisasa. This is avicchapasada is uh, the faith that one who attains the first level of enlightenment, that individual will have that kind of faith. This is called avicchapasada. That means have the faith with understanding in the Buddha, faith in the Dhamma, faith in the Sangha, faith in the what you call Sila, Arya Kanta Sila. These are the qualities of one who attains the stream entry. So, doubt by all means, unwholesome doubt must be overcome, and wholesome doubt must be maintained, support, encourage, and continue asking the questions. As we all know, the Buddha's teaching is not just to accept on blind faith, but to accept with questioning, inquiring, and even doubting until we get it clarified. And therefore, doubt on the one hand is unwholesome, unprofitable. On the other hand is wholesome and profitable. Profitable doubt will even open our mind to see the reality and attain stream entry. That is why when the stream enterer, one attains stream entry, he himself or herself would say aparapachya. Aparapachya means, apara means another, pachya means cause. That person will not have doubt to ask anybody because he sees the truth by himself or herself and have settled the mind on the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha with utmost confidence, with understanding. And therefore, on the one hand, doubt is harmful, on the other is beneficial. So this is the second fetter. As you know, fetter is far more, more deeply rooted mental state than hindrance. Hindrance also has a doubt. Fetter also has a doubt. The doubt as a hindrance arises, doubt as fetter. Fetter is like the the whole network of roots underground, and a shoot coming out of that is hindrance doubt. So there's a difference between doubt in hindrances and doubt in fetters. Hindrance doubt you can temporarily eliminate, but fetter doubt would take a long time to eliminate. And therefore, this we have to understand the relationship between these two kinds of doubts. Doubt in hindrances, doubt in fetter. I think with this, I like to conclude this morning session, and thank you once again for coming and participating in this, joining us with one intention in mind, that is to help all these suffering beings, including ourselves, from suffering by following metta, practicing metta, and developing our mind through insight. These two are very wonderful factors to develop. That is why I repeat the same thing every day. It doesn't matter how long we repeat it, it will never be stale or boring or out of taste. And we deepen our understanding. Thank you, and see you this evening.